Okay guys, so today we're going to be working on 3D models and extrusions, which is really just going to be taking the concepts that we learned last week when we were doing our 2D sketches and extruding them, doing revolutions, coils, sweeps, things like that, to turn them into a 3D model that can actually be used and produced and either 3D printed or machined and things like that. So the first thing we're going to do is really go over the basic concepts, and then after that I'll put up a video focusing on example problems that you can look through to help you with the homework. So here we have just our basic 2D sketch of our square, and if we go over to the extrude button, we'll be able to extrude it. You can pick the distance and just click OK and it'll do a regular extrude, but if you go into advanced properties, you can taper it with an angle in degrees. And you can also switch the direction of that taper, which will change the look of your model. Increasing or decreasing the distance also changes the look, since we are working with an angle. So as you can see, that's more pyramidal, and then as you kind of decrease the distance, it's gonna just change how the model looks. It makes it really easy to create tapered effects without having to go through and cutting things out. If you right click in your model tree on the model and click edit feature, you can change the angle, the direction, the size, yada yada yada, whatever you need after you've already extruded it. You can also edit your sketch by right clicking the extrusion button and clicking edit sketch. You can also create a hole without going into the sketch by going into the hole feature. What you're going to do is set your diameter, then place it on your face of your extrusion, and then you'll click the two edges that you want to define it from, so you can define where you want it relative to those two edges, and then clicking OK just sets the hole. Another option for creating the hole would be to create an angled hole with a drill point edge. There you'll be clicking the distance option, and then you'll also be able to determine how far down you want it to go, what angle you want it to be at, and the diameter of the straight part of the hole. And so again, what you do is you just click the two edges you want it to define from after clicking what face you want it on, and click OK, and it should set that for you. And here is the cut out view of the hole that you have created. So now we're going to go and create 3D fillets. So what you can do is you can change the radius there, and then click the edges that you want to add a fillet to. This is the edge fillet option. There's two other options that you can do, and you can also change and create a variable fillet, which will give it a different look, but I'm not going to cover that here because you're not likely to use it often. So here we're going to create an internal fillet as well between those two faces. So again, change the radius, and you would just click that inner edge, and once you click it as you change the radius, it will automatically update for you. So you'll be able to just click OK and apply it, and there you go. So now we're going to create a full round fillet. You're going to want to set your radius in the previous screen before clicking full round, and then you're going to click your front face, your center face, and your back face, and that will create a full round fillet with the radius that you set previously. So here I've already created this model, and what we're going to do is we're going to go and create a face fillet, which is another type of fillet. So you're going to click the angled face on both sides, and then you can change the radius to what you want it to be, and that will just create a rounded effect across the middle of those two edges. So now we're going to create some chamfers. Again, these are created on the actual model itself. So here we're just going to create a regular chamfer. You click the distance and the edge, and it takes an equal amount off of both sides. There's also the option to do it with an angle. So you'll pick your distance, your angle, and you'll click your top face that you want your angle to be based off of, and your edge. And then changing the angle will change the angle between that edge and the face that you chose. And then here we're going to create an uneven chamfer or variable chamfer. So one side is going to take off a certain distance, and the other side will take off the other, and you can change that using the flip option. So now we're going to create the draft. The draft can be a little finicky at times, but you're going to want to click what direction your pull direction is going to be on, and you're going to click the face that is in that direction. So you can see I'm flipping back and forth between the directions here. And then you can set your draft angle, and you can flip if you want it to basically kind of add material or extract material from that area. If you go and you click on the other side as your pull angle, it will switch which side is going to be added and which side is going to be subtracted from, sort of like what side will be higher, what side will be lower. Now we're going to create a shell, so you're going to click on the face that you want to be the open side of your model, and you'll be able to change the thickness of that shell, and based on the options on the left hand side, you'll be able to decide if you want that to be on the outside, inside, or between both of them, so an even amount. So basically you're going to choose if you want your thickness to be outside of the dimensions, inside of the dimensions, or half and half for your thickness of your shell. So here we have the split option. So what you're going to do is you're going to create a sketch that has the line that you want to split across, and then you're going to click on that line as your tool, and then click on the face that you want to split apart, or the model you want to split apart. And based on the options, you'll be able to basically decide if you want to keep both sides and split it in half, or if you want to extract one side of it and only keep one side of it. So here we extracted part of it, but if you go into split again and you click the option that lets you keep both sides of it, it just splits it into two different parts of that model. So now I'm going to show you guys how to mirror your 3D extruded model. So you're going to click the mirror option and then click which features that you want to mirror, and then you can choose between the YZ, XZ, or XY plane. You can also choose between a feature on the actual model itself or between a work plane that you create. So here you can see that I didn't click the fillet option or part of the model when I was mirroring it, so you want to make sure you're clicking all parts with a control click. So now when I mirror it, I'm going to click this side and mirror across that, and you can see that it has all parts of the model. So now I'm going to show you how to create a pattern on your extruded model. So I already created the hole, so you're going to click the hole, and then you're going to click the face in the direction that you want your pattern to continue into. You can pick how many rows you want or columns you want here. Then you'll pick the other side, a different face to show what direction you want that to go in, and again pick how many rows you want, and there you have your pattern. So now what I'm going to do is make all of my origin planes visible so that we can work with them. What we're going to do here is learn how to create some work planes, which are very beneficial when you're creating more complicated pieces, because you can work right off of them. So first thing we're going to do is do like an offset plane. So if you put in a dimension, it'll move it that distance, and it'll just, you know, be a new plane that you can work off of, and you can really define certain pieces off of that in a much easier way. You can also create it directly off of a side or a different top. So like here on the top, it doesn't have to be like directly in the model, it's all the way above the model, but if you put a negative, it'll go in the other direction. So now we're going to create another plane called a two coplanar edges plane, and so what you're going to do is basically click two edges and it will create an angled plane between those two edges. There's also an option for a 3-point plane, so you just essentially pick 3 points on your model, or points that you just created using the point option, and it will create a plane off. So now I'm going to create an offset plane on one side of the face, so you're just going to make it 0 and click OK, and it'll be right on that face. And then clicking the mid plane option, we're going to click the two outer planes, and it'll create a plane in the middle of those two for a center. And then here we have yet another type of plane, so we're going to do an angle around an edge plane. We'll click an edge, click the side that we want to create our angle based off of, and then just inputting different angles will change how the plane is angled. Pretty much that's how angles work. So So now I'm going to show you guys how to create a revolution. So here is the sketch that I made of what I want my profile of my revolved piece to look like. And we're going to go over and we're going to create a center line. And that center line is going to be what we revolve our piece around. So we're going to click Finish Sketch, click OK, and we'll go to the Revolve option, and you can put in the angle. So if you want it to only be half, you'll put in 180. You can switch the direction around. And you can also create something with like two different angles. So one part of it will be a certain angle, another part will be a different angle, so like a 90 and a 45-degree angle together, and that's just to orient it a certain way, and it's pretty useful. So now if we want the sketch to be on both sides, we can go and edit sketch. I'm just going to create a horizontal construction line that I'll be able to mirror my feature around. So you'll just click all of the parts that you want to mirror, and then click the mirror line, and that should mirror it to the other side of that line. Once you click apply, I missed a line, so I have to draw that in, but if you just click Control Select on it, it should work. So once that's done, we're going to click the Finish Sketch button, and you can see it didn't fully update, but if we go into Edit Feature, we can click on that part of the sketch now, and it should update. If there wasn't a line between them, it might update on its own. So if you don't want to do it that way, you can actually just mirror your 3D feature using the mirror option in the 3D model part. And so there you go, it's a lot quicker, but now it's like you have two different parts of the model. So now we're just going to create another work plane. So what we're going to do is click the XY plane and then click the edge of the circle or the cylinder, and it'll create a plane tangent to that. And so now here are just a few ways to create some axes, work axes, which will be useful when you're doing like coils or something like that, which I'm going to show you in a little bit. There's just a few different ways. They're pretty self-explanatory, like the 2-point, just a work axis between the 2-point, tangent, things like that. Not very difficult. Here we're going to create a work axis right through the center of this cylinder. Again, something that can be helpful in certain cases. So now we're going to create a sweep. So I already created the sketch, and what we're going to do now is we're going to create a path for it to follow using a spline sketch on the work plane perpendicular to the plane that we created our original sketch on. So we're just going to sketch a random spline for right now, but like this is pretty useful if you have an equation that you actually want this to go across. So again, in this case it's just something random, but you can use an equation and points and things like that. And so once we do that, we're going to click sweep, and it'll automatically know that you're doing something if you only have two things on it, but if not, you can click the profile and the path, and you'll click OK. There's taper options and more advanced options, but this is just a basic sweep. So now I'm going to show you guys how to create a coil. I already have my sketch here, and you want it to be slightly off of the origin, so I have it set to 0.75 because you need that distance to be the hollow part of the inside of the coil, so it actually has room to coil and spiral around. That distance is going to be your dimension length, so 0.75 minus the radius, which is 0.125. So you're going to click on your path, and then you'll click on the axes that you want it to coil around. So make those visible in your model, and then you'll be able to click the define the pitch and define the number of revolutions that you want it to go around. You can also give it like an angle or something like that, but this is just a basic coil. And yeah, that's pretty much it for this video. I've covered all of the different topics that you need to know, and I'll do some examples in the next one.